I'm Amanda Knox.
And I'm Christopher Robinson.
And this
is Who's Right? Between our usual Labyrinths episodes, we sit down to debate something quite serious.
Or silly.
And ask you, who is right?
It's me.
It's me.
It's me.
It's clearly me.
No, definitely me.
It's me.
Me?
No. Me.
It's me.
How could it be anyone but me?
Says the man sleeping on the couch.
I'm still waiting for this LaCroix endorsement.
Well, welcome to Who's Right, brought to you by LaCroix.
If only brought to you by LaCroix.
You know what but the thing about LaCroix is it says innocent right there. I've always thought that's your drink because of that.
Well, and whenever I saw that, I was like, wait a minute. Like, are they, I don't know. I think, why innocent? They could have said 0 sodium, any other thing. Anyway.
All this just to say, it seems like the stars are aligned, LaCroix. Where's our product endorsement? We're going to keep buying your product no matter what.
No matter what.
As long as you stop making key lime flavor.
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
Take that in mind. You're ruining, I don't understand why it tastes like chocolate.
This episode is about Halloween. Was that your Scooby-Doo villain laugh?
That was my Scooby-Doo villain laugh.
Okay.
Don't ask me to replicate it. I don't know how it just emerged. Right. So Halloween, one of my favorite holidays.
Mine too.
Despite the baggage associated with it now.
For you personally?
For me personally, yeah.
Which is, for the audience?
Well, in case the audience doesn't know, a friend of mine was murdered the day after Halloween, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, meaning this time of year, you're kind of, a little bit of you is always thinking about that?
Yeah, as soon as the pumpkin spice lattes are coming out, I'm not just jollily looking forward to Halloween.
Yeah. I'm
also in a sort of dark, reflective space. And it's been a little bit more pronounced this year.
Has it?
Yeah. I mean, so part of the reason why it's been pronounced is because the election's coming up and everyone's thinking about it and talking about it. Abortion seems to be the biggest issue that's really making or breaking this race. And it just reminds me of the other sort of pro-life argument that isn't as attractive, which is the death penalty argument, which is what I always think of. And I'm obviously concerned about the outcome of this election and what that's going to mean on a life or death practical means for people who are on death row, guilty or innocent alike.
You've lost me here. Why are we talking about this?
We're talking about this just because I'm thinking about death. And so it's not just candy and pumpkins for me when it comes to Halloween. Despite that, it is still
candy and pumpkins. At least pumpkins.
Yeah, I guess I don't eat candy. I'm aware of candy being a huge thing.
Yeah.
Although I am tempted to make caramel apples.
Really?
Yeah. You know those really decadent, full out gourmet ones? Have you ever had those at that one coffee shop?
Yeah, I'm aware of
the Rocky
what
Mountain
a gourmet caramel apple is like.
Yeah. I used to get those on the way home from school.
All right.
Of high school.
So what are we debating here?
Well, so one debate is whether or not Halloween should be spooky or if it's enough to just be costumey, right? Should Halloween be scary or is it enough?
Let me alter that prompt a little bit. There's two versions of it. One is spooky, scary. Scary can be fun still, right? A haunted house with people jumping out at you is scary, but it has nothing to do with a reflective attitude towards mortality, right? So I think one of the second question you're sort of asking is, in a Day of the Dead sort of way, is there something important about having a holiday where you look death in the face a little bit?
Yeah, I think I would.
Is that the question?
Well, that was kind of, that's a version of the question.
Because a lot of people aren't doing
is,
that on Halloween in its American version, right? they're not really looking mortality or death in the face in some serious way, in the way that you might honor your ancestors in a traditional setting in
in the Day of the Dead kind of way, yes.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, at the same time, it seems like this time of year already, even if it's not Halloween itself, there are already celebrations having to do with remembering the dead and celebrating them.
Let's just do a little mental cast about here. Are there any other holidays that we celebrate where we importantly...
That we celebrate or that people
celebrate that are common, where you honor the dead, where you think about death, where death is
I feel like Halloween is the one time where it's even remotely close.
What about winter solstice?
Winter solstice is not about death. It's about the transitioning of the year. It's the darkest day of the year.
Is spring solstice about new life?
I mean,
kind of, right?
in the sense that the Easter bunny was, if you go back to the pagan rituals that are behind all of these things, then sort of it's a fertility ritual in the spring, and it's a sort of an atonement and remembrance reflection ritual in the...
it seems like two sides of the coin, right? You've got your fertility
Halloween,
and your mortality.
Halloween is the mortality one, not winter solstice. Winter solstice is the celebration of it's the darkest night of the year, but it's the coming of the light. Whereas, again, so Halloween...
So we don't really have one other than Halloween.
Yeah.
So if Halloween becomes corrupted into Candyland, then you've lost something important.
Yeah. And I would argue that point. I think that it's definitely been super meaningful to me that this whole month's theme at the Zendo has been impermanence.
You can't just drop the word Zendo here.
Zendo is where we go and meditate every weekend.
Zendo just means church hall.
Okay,
right?
Well, in the Zen tradition, it's a building where people go meditate together. So when we go meditate on the weekends, we attend a Zendo, and the theme for this month is impermanence. And we do 5 remembrances of how we're all going to die one day. So it's been very
And you're going to get sick.
And you're going to get old if you're lucky. If you're lucky, you're going to get old, you're going to get sick, and you're going to die.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
If you're unlucky, you'll live forever.
Well, actually, no one's actually lived forever, so we don't know if that's lucky or unlucky. But as things stand, that is a fact that all of us have to face, and it's a good thing to remember that at least one time a year. That has been the focus, and I love that. I think that that's really meaningful, and I think it would argue that when you do look death in the face, it makes you approach life in a different way. And you actually weren't there for the last conversation, the Dharma talk, but it was about how you should think of yourself like a glass that has already been shattered. So you're a water glass, and baked into the existence of this water glass is the fact that it one day will be shattered. So it both is a glass and it's also not a glass.
If you view it in its 4-dimensional object through time, then at one point in time it wasn't created, at another point in time it's been broken.
Yes.
You happen to be holding it now when it has yet to be broken.
Right. And it's precious for that reason that it is a glass right now that one day will be broken. And the same thing can be said of us. We are alive, and one day we will be dead. And so it is extra precious that we are alive. And so it's that fear of looking death in the face is actually misplaced because it brings out the beauty of being alive.
So, I think my instinct here is to agree with you that it seems like an important thing for people, for society, for us personally, to have a moment in the year in which we are encouraged to think about these things. And I'm with you. I think that Halloween, historically anyway, has been that moment, and that in related, celebrations like Day of the Dead, it still exists in a big way. But I'm also wondering, how do you transform what our current Halloween has become into something that involves this? Because it doesn't really involve this right now.
I mean, if we're thinking about it, Halloween, we're not doing, at least right now, as far as we know, we're not planning on doing anything that is a celebration of remembering people who have died.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're just going to get dressed up in costume and go in town and go trick-or-treating with Eureka and Echo.
Yeah.
And maybe we should incorporate something into that day that is about death. Because it's just like, you can't really sell that to parents with, like, do parents want to talk about death with their kids?
I think a lot of them don't, and they go la 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 in the same way they don't want to talk about sex with their kids.
Okay, well,
but they should.
But is that true of people our age? Maybe that's true of a generation ago. I don't know.
That's a good question for the listeners mid-episode. Like, if you have kids, like, do you talk to them about death? I'm curious. Let us know.
Meanwhile, Eureka is fascinated by...
Eureka is a goth girl.
She's a goth girl.
Yeah.
She's like, show me zombies. And it's scary pictures that you show her, and she's into them. Although I don't think she really understands what death is. And maybe this is an important thing for us to talk to her
She
about.
was pretending to have a pet fish the other day. And I was like, maybe we should get her a real pet goldfish.
Because it will die.
And I was thinking, so it can die. And so she can
experience
grapple with that.
Death and grief.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little microdose of death, you know?
It is. That's what a goldfish is.
Yeah.
A microdose of death.
A goldfish for a child is a microdose of death. Yeah, you're going to have to learn the grieving process and the impermanence of all things at some point. And, like, that's a little entree into that experience for her. And maybe it's not a bad one.
I mean, maybe we should get her a goldfish on Halloween.
Is this the new ritual?
Maybe everyone gets a goldfish, and by the end of the year...
Here you go. Just remember, it's already dead. In the future.
In the future. How long do goldfish live?
I don't know. It's not that long.
We should look this up before we get a goldfish.
Jamie, can you look that up? We don't have a Jamie here.
Yeah, who's Jamie?
You know, that's Joe Rogan's guy.
Oh, wow.
You should know that. You're the one who's been on Joe Rogan.
I know, but I wasn't paying attention to his off-screen
How
requests.
long? I'm looking it up.
How long do goldfish live?
10 to 15 years? Really?
Okay, so not a goldfish.
Wrong. Unless we... Yeah, no. Okay, well, we're going to have to look this up. Short-lived pets.
We take all of that back about goldfish. We know nothing about fish, as it turns out.
It just seems like such a trope from TV and from my own childhood.
The goldfish that's floating upside down.
It's just like that happens. Maybe it's just because people are bad at caring for them.
Maybe, which is even more depressing.
Okay, here's another related question. Are there other holidays where there are distinctly different modes of celebration that are maybe even opposite? Where at one point during the holiday you're somber, and at another point you're jubilant. Because kind of if we're trying to merge into our Halloween something that involves this reflective thing about death, I want to know if there's any precedents where it's like, oh yeah, on this other holiday it's like you do this thing that's kind of very sober, and then this later you get jubilant. Like, does that exist? And if not, does that tell you something about the sort of structure of these social rituals we have called holidays, and that maybe it's a bad idea to try and merge tones in that way?
I think what is the movie with joy and sadness and anger?
Inside Out?
I think Inside Out taught us that we can have more than one emotion at the same time, because we are complex human beings, and those emotions go hand in hand and elevate each other.
Something like on Thanksgiving, say, we might, every family's different, but like we like to go around and like say some actual words of thanks, things we're grateful for, like do some actual gratitude practice at the dinner table. But then, a few hours later, we might be playing charades or something, which is a very different and light activity compared to like sober gratitude reflections. So there's that level of
maybe on
disjunct.
Birthdays we should have a moment where we all reflect about how we're 1 year closer to death. Just invite death to every party. It didn't work out well I'll tell you where it does not work out well is New Year's.
No, why?
Do you remember when we invited Death to New Year's?
Oh, yeah. I thought that worked out great.
It worked out horribly.
No.
Okay, here's the story of when we invited Death to New Year's. And it was because the day before Christmas, so Christmas Eve, Mr. Screams, our beloved cat, was run over by a car.
We found this out at, I don't know, 2 a.m. or something on Christmas Day. We got a phone call from a stranger who saw his body in the road and, called us. I woke up groggy. Who is this, And he's like, I think your cat is out here in the road. And I was just like, is this some kind of prank? Like, is this, I could not conceptualize what actually was happening until we got out there.
Right.
And Mr. Fats, his brother, was out there near his body, trying to
nudge him out of the road.
Yeah, it was just so crushing. And he was very obviously dead. So we took him and put him in a cardboard box and then just sobbed for several hours.
Until the morning.
Until it was dawn.
And then we buried him in the backyard. And then we went to Christmas.
Then we went to Christmas Day.
And we're crying all Christmas Day. And
now
then,
that was actually really nice.
Because we happened to be with family.
Yeah, we didn't hide it. We're not the kind of people who pretend that nothing's wrong, right? We didn't cancel Christmas. We went and did all the stuff that we would normally do. We had Christmas dinner with our family. We opened presents. We did all that stuff. But we did it with this very open wound where we were just like, I'm sorry, I'm just a wreck right now. Mr. Screams just died. And everyone comforted us and they shared in our grief.
That's true. Now.
And we had joyous times at the same time. It was just it was a wild emotional ride.
Okay. But then we did a thing.
Then we had a New Year's party planned.
Then we decided to have a New Year's party plan. And for the record, the New Year's party prior to that we hosted the year before was kicking. That was a good party. Everyone had a great time. Good music, good people, good food, good drinks. Everyone was happy with it.
The theme of our New Year's party was a show and tell, basically.
Right.
It was a talent show.
Which was a lot of fun. Brought a lot of creativity to it. And we thought we would do the same thing for this year. But because we were so utterly devastated, we could not really get into the spirit of doing something fun for our show and tell. And so instead, we decided to do a slideshow eulogy for our cat.
We gave a eulogy for our cat. I wrote a poem about Mr. Screams, which I think was actually quite a good poem. And because it had some anger in there. Anyway. And then we did this slideshow eulogy.
And it killed the vibe, let me tell you.
I don't know.
It killed the vibe. People were like, all right, it's early, I'm
time
leaving.
To go.
Amanda and Chris are crying. It was a bad move. That was New Year's is not...
We should ask someone who was at that party if they remember it that way, because I don't I remember...
I definitely remember it that way.
I remember... it being a little like Christmas, where people shared in our grief and then we still had a fun time.
Hey, listeners. Thanks for tuning in. This podcast would not exist without your support.
We're all navigating our own personal maze.
And you don't have to be stuck in a prison cell to feel trapped in your own life.
Our mission with Labyrinths is to find growth and resilience through trauma, and we do that with a commitment to our core values.
Curiosity in a time of outrage. Compassion as a tool for understanding.
And the courage to ask hard questions and avoid easy answers. Please consider becoming a patron. Visit patreon.com/Knox Robinson. For as little as $5 a month, you can get ad-free episodes and join our online community.
We even offer signed books and live monthly video hangouts. So please, grow with us. Join our community. Visit patreon.com/Knox Robinson. I think it killed the vibe.
Our other option was to cancel the party because I couldn't just pretend that I wasn't grieving still.
I think we should have canceled the party.
Okay, well, this is interesting information regarding how to bring death into Halloween, because if you're kid wants to dress up as a princess or something, are you going to be like, no, choose something more scary and death related?
of course
you're not going to do that, right? Although we have a friend of our producer, Andre, he's like, all costumes must be scary. Otherwise, it's bullshit.
And I was like, what? Who said that anything? Like, okay, here's one aspect of Halloween I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
It's the gore factor. I don't actually like how gory it is. I don't like gore. I just don't like it. I can't watch movies with gore in it.
I'm not a gore person either, but like, I don't know. Would you ban gore? No, right?
No, I'm not going to ban gore, but I wish that it wasn't such a heightened thing on Halloween. Like, I would love for there to be a haunted house that didn't have gore in it.
You know what gore is?
What?
I'm going to go public with my thoughts on gore here.
Okay, this is new to me, so hang tight, everyone.
Yeah. It's the poor man's fear. Like, it should be about fear and like
about tension, you know,
you know, like a gory movie is different than a scary movie, and it's harder to make genuine fear than it is to make gore.
Well, no. So I think you're oversimplifying it. It's
a substitute. It's like people try to make a shortcut to it, but it's a kind of simplified, less complex, less interesting version of fear.
I disagree with you. I would argue that it's a different kind of fear, but it's not a lesser fear. It's just a more visceral fear that also pings our disgust.
Definitely
emotions.
Does the disgust reflex. That's true.
Yes. So like it's prodding an instinct.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe the thing that I am lacking and potentially you are lacking is the sort of like the enjoyment of the adrenaline rush that comes from having your disgust impulse triggered. I do not find that pleasant at all. I find that extremely unpleasant. And in a way that like I just can't. Whereas like other scary movies that are more psychological thriller kind of things or even jump scary things.
What about like The Ring?
The Ring was a scary movie. I remember that. But the worst parts of them were kind of gross. Like it wasn't.
Were they?
Well, like, do you remember the girl in the closet with her like face?
No, I'm a bat clone.
You don't remember?
I
still remember that. And it's just. And then, like, she's crawling out of the TV all, like, wet and gross. But it's not gore, so...
It's not gore.
It's not gore. It's
creepy
just
as fuck.
Creepy as fuck.
Right?
Yeah, I guess that's
Are you okay with haunted houses that capture that vibe instead of some guy jumping out holding a bloody head? You know, it's like...
I definitely... Of the haunted houses out there, the ones that are gory, I want nothing to do with.
I think we're getting off on a tangent here. Let's get back to how are we going to incorporate a serious reflection on mortality and death into the Halloween celebration? How do we do it? How do we do it this year?
Well,
this can be our beta test.
I think what would be nice potentially, we could do a Day of the Dead thing. So the day afterward, we light a candle or do something.
Maybe this is the answer. It's already there in Mexico. You just do another celebration the following day that is your more serious one. You party the night before.
It's basically like Mardi Gras and Lent.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have the Mardi Gras of Halloween and then you have the Lent.
And then it's like, okay, we did our spooky fun thing. Now let's like soberly reflect on those we've lost and come to terms for a moment anyways with our own impending deaths.
Okay, but we could just do like a Day of the Dead celebration. Why
invent a whole new thing?
Why invent a whole new thing when they have an excellent tradition of putting up pictures of loved ones who died, the marigolds, to guide them home?
Maybe because I don't believe in spirits.
This is why you do not like it.
Is there a way to to guide the spirits? But I don't.
Well, maybe you can just put flowers around the pictures because they're pretty.
Yeah, or maybe we invent our own Day of the Dead thing that involves shattering a glass. That's too much like a Jewish wedding. The glass is already shattered at the beginning of a Jewish wedding. It's like you're already divorced.
Wait, is that what that represents?
No.
What does that represent?
I don't know. Maybe it's the irrevocability of the bond? We're not Jews, as you can tell.
I'm looking this up. Glass shattering at Jewish wedding.
I'm just saying, like, what if we bring in some of our more, like, Buddhist influence here? What does a Buddhist version of Day of the Dead look like is kind of what I'm wondering.
Shattered glass is meant to symbolize married life, which holds both joy and sorrow.
That's very
Interesting.
Jewish. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, well, I'm down to have some photos of...
And a commitment, because once the glass is shattered, it can't be brought back together.
Yeah. But what about your own mortality? Does Day of the Dead do anything about that? In this, like, Buddhist impermanence thing, remember, you're going to die. Like, I think we should incorporate that.
Well, what
somehow.
I was thinking was we should do the 5 remembrances that we talk about at the Zendo. So there's no avoiding old age. There's no avoiding illness. There's no avoiding death. Everyone that you love and everything you love, you'll be separated from. And the only things that you really have are your deeds. Your deeds are the one thing that you can hold on to.
All right. Maybe that's our plan then. On November 1.
We'll light a candle and chant the 5 remembrances.
No, we don't necessarily have to chant them.
Okay, just say them, recite
them.
them.
Or reflect on them. Or just talk about them. We'll, like, talk about them with Eureka, even. See what that's like.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Talk to her about, like, sometimes you're sick, like you can't go through life without getting sick. You're going to get sick, and you might get really sick. And at some point, Mommy's going to die, and I'm going to die, and you're going to die. Like, should we try that with our 3-year-old and see what happens? I kind of think we should.
I think we should. Maybe we should ask the audience if we should.
Yeah.
Has anyone done this?
Yes.
And has it backfired?
This is actually a good question for the audience. Yeah. Should we talk to our 3-year-old about the fact that she's going to die and that we're going to die?
Her greatest fear is abandonment, for the record, right now. So we have to keep in mind that, like, the idea of being separated from us is an existential anxiety for her right now. So that's where I'm feeling a little bit unsure. Like, maybe when she is out of the baby phase and isn't going to be traumatized by the idea of separation from us, but actually maybe it's a good thing, because then we can say, well, but if we were to die, someone else would be, Oma would love you, and Grandma and Grandpa would love you. And
well, you're naming people who will likely be dead before we die. Well, but yes, Uncle Kyle, although he's the one who plays with swords all the time. It's true. So. Sorry, Kyle, don't die on a sword. You know what, though? I was thinking about the fact that I look back at my own history of costuming at Halloween and other days, and a lot of the times I haven't been something scary, right?
I don't think I've ever been anything scary.
I thought it might be interesting for us to run through a brief history of our Halloween costumes.
Okay.
But because
sure.
I have a point about death related to this that I think is actually really insightful. I'm going to just announce up ahead of time that my point is insightful.
Great.
It's the best way to be insightful is just to tell people to be prepared
to be incited
by the insight. So, what have you been for Halloween?
All right. Obviously, I don't have all of them memorized, and I'm sure. I hope I don't get canceled for some of these.
Especially, let's focus on the ones you might get canceled for.
Especially the ones that I might get canceled for. I have been a Native American.
Uh-oh. You went right there, right off the bat. How old were you?
I was a child.
Yeah.
But
I was not a Native American, but there is a photo of my brother when he's going to get canceled now. When he's like, I don't know, 2.5 and I'm like 5, where he's the Native American and I'm an Army guy.
Okay.
So I feel like being an Army guy is,
What?
There's people who don't like that, What are you, warmongering, Anyway.
I don't think that's the issue. But the other thing that I've been that could potentially cancel me was I did, on Halloween, have Day of the Dead makeup on. And I was told that this was
Cultural appropriation?
Yeah, it was appropriation and not respecting the tradition because it's not a costume. It's a.
I think I've seen that photo of you.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of any other.
You did such a good job, though.
I know. I thought that it was okay because Halloween and Day of the Dead sort of go hand in hand for me. But potentially that was a bad move.
You were also like aware of actual Day of the Dead traditions and were
right
honoring and celebrating them.
Yes, but I was also at a Halloween party wearing this outfit. So potentially I was being offensive. Other offensive things that I have been.
Well, that wasn't the question. It was supposed to just be, what have
just
you been?
anything that I've been. I've been a mermaid. I've been a witch. I was
once a guy carrying another guy.
Oh,
with like fake legs and stuff.
Yeah, okay, nice.
I've been Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I've been Han Solo.
Of course.
How many Harrison Fords? Yeah.
Yeah, you need to be from Blade Runner now.
My brother and I have been the Boondock Saints.
Oh, fun.
When I was a teenager.
That's fun.
I've been Jack from Fight Club in a party costume where my friend was Tyler Durden.
Nice.
And the girl was Marla.
I've been Poison Ivy.
I've been a guy in a windstorm.
That's funny. Like everything was askew.
Yeah, and like my tie was like blowing to the side, with a leaf stuck to the side of my head.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
See, I love those. I saw actually, did you show me the picture of the guy who won Halloween this year? He's going as the guy whose dick hit the bar at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Those are the best. Let's see.
I did a couple's costume with my ex-girlfriend Carmi where we were Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh, dope. That's cool. I'm having trouble remembering Halloween costumes. I feel like a lot of them
we went
were
as
like
our D&D characters one year, didn't we?
Did we? I've just been like a witch, like from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
In a lot of different iterances. We just did.
We were a family of gnomes last year.
Family of gnomes, yeah.
Of course, this year we're doing a Nightmare Before Christmas group costume.
Yep, I'll be Sally.
Eureka is Jack Skellington.
Echo's going to be Oogie Boogie, and Chris is going to be Santa Claus tied up in rope.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can remember, really.
Okay, I'm sure there's plenty more, but my point here is that most of these aren't scary, right? That's not about death necessarily.
No, it's about fantasy.
But it is about the death of self. And I think what's really interesting here.
As you
no, it is. Like, why do people like dressing up in costume and being someone else and acting like a different character for a while? Like, that's one of the things you do on Halloween, right? You don't necessarily dress up as someone scary, but you become someone else. And I think that's a really interesting.
What you like.
Yeah. So?
Well, this is my defense against the cultural appropriation thing is you become what you like. But
okay,
whatever.
You're not going to be canceled. Calm down. My point is that I think built into that impulse to let go of who you normally are and to don another costume, another appearance, even another behavior and attitude if you really get into Halloween, which some people do, is a way to like let go of yourself for a night, right?
I think you're thinking too hard into this. I think it's just fun to put on a costume. I think you're way too aware.
Not everyone likes to put on a costume, and I wonder if you were to do a study ask people, this would actually be super fascinating.
Okay, can I make one point about Halloween, though, that we haven't talked about?
Sure.
Sexy Halloween costumes.
Yes. A friend of mine once advocated for there to be a second Halloween in July called Slutty Halloween, where everyone could do their slutty costumes, and that way on actual Halloween, you would just have non-slutty costumes when it was cold out.
Right.
And I mean, this would primarily be to benefit women who wanted to dress in a slutty way, but they now wouldn't have to do it in October.
Well, I love this idea.
I don't think it would work.
But I also think that men have to be required to wear slutty costumes too.
Required? You're requiring people?
On slutty Halloween.
On slutty Halloween.
You have to dress like a slutty Halloween
The problem
person.
is it's like an arms race. As soon as like someone shows up in a slutty costume, then it cracks the door open for that. And as soon as one person continues to do it on normal Halloween, which they will, they're just both going to be slutty Halloween still.
I just regret the days of slutty Halloween.
Another fun story about slutty Halloween is that, again, my ex-girlfriend Carmi, we had some great couples costumes. She was a Dalek once, and I was the doctor. But she told me that she once went as Edward Scissorhands to a party, and she was doing a couples costume with her friend who was going to be a hedge, a bush.
Yeah, perfect.
And Carmi went all out on her costume and showed up, makeup, everything, Edward Scissorhands. And then her friend came as a sexy bush.
And she's like, there's nothing for me to trim.
Yeah. I think I'm okay with... Are you anti-sexy costumes?
I am anti-sexy costumes.
Unless the character is a sexy character? What if you're dressing up as Leeloo Dallas from
then it is by
Element.
definition what it is.
Right?
I get, you know what? I'm not against slutty costumes. I just find them exhausting.
Yeah?
Yeah, and cold.
Well, we live in a
That's why slutty
cold part of
Halloween
the year.
in July makes sense to me.
All right, well, I think we have quite a bit for some audience to weigh in on.
Yeah, I think so.
What do you think of slutty costumes?
Should we introduce death to our daughter?
Yes. Is there something deep about putting on a costume and becoming someone else that has to do with letting go of who you are? Or is it just fun and I'm overthinking it?
You're overthinking it.
I've never overthought anything.
You overthink everything.
I'm going to write an essay about it.
Okay, good. Write a poem about how you don't overthink things.
All right, well, we hope you have a spooky Halloween, maybe even a sexy Halloween.
Yeah, you know what? I wish a sexy Halloween upon you all.
Yes. Just remember, you're going to die.
Celebration of life.
You know where to find us?
At amandaknox.com. On X at Amanda Knox.
At Man Under Bridge.
On Instagram at Amama Knox.
At MC Carbon.
Thanks for listening. This has been fun.
See you next time.